Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Dylan. This is Lizzie. We are diving in on nutrition today. We're going to help you master your nutrition. So today we are going to really talk about how to be successful with your plan as you reintroduce these foods that we took out for the first phase, the detox phase. So just to recap, before when you're starting this program, you are going to start taking out all these negative foods that are negatively impacting your health. And we want to make sure your body's in tune and aware. We want to make sure you become aware of how these foods are affecting you. So we're going to take them out. We're going to detox and cleanse your body. And we have a specific protocol that you can follow. If you missed it, you want to learn more, click on the recap videos and the replay on the YouTube channel. You can watch these videos all in there. You can find out exactly what we're talking about. But first, I want to make sure you understand that this is the second phase. We're reintroducing foods now. Now that we cleansed your body, we're going to give you back those foods so you can sense how they're doing for your body. Right? We're becoming more aware, more in tune with ourselves, more in tune with our bodies. So with that being said, let's dive in on this next nutrition mastery call.
Welcome back, guys. You made it through the first phase. That hard part is hopefully over for you. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. But now we're going to reintroduce food back into our diet, but we're not going to do it all at once. So I want to make that clear. Whenever you are doing a detox, you want to reintroduce foods back into your diet slowly after you come back from the detox. So week one, we're going to reintroduce red meat and eggs, inflammatory proteins is what I like to call it. Deemed inflammatory proteins. Now, this may not be inflammatory for your body. It may never have been inflammatory for your body, but it is considered an inflammatory food. So this week, we are only going to reintroduce back in red meat. We can have eggs back in our diet. Let's try and stay away from pork still for the most part. But stuff like the red meat, that's like the big one. A lot of people have issues with red meat and a lot of people have issues with eggs. But we're going to reintroduce that back into our diet this week. So that's week one. Week two comes around. We're going to reintroduce wheat, oats, grains, barley, and legumes back into our diet. So let me kind of dive into that. Not everybody knows what that means. This means you get to eat bread. You can have oats back in your diet. You can have beans, lentils back in your diet. And you can also have peanut butter back in your diet. Remember when we talked about previously that peanut butter was considered inflammatory? It is not actually a nut. It is a legume. Week two, we can introduce that back into our diet. If you're a peanut butter lover like me, then that is something you're just like super excited about having again. So peanut butter gets reintroduced back in week two. Week three, we get to have dairy again. I know you're super excited about that because most people live off of dairy. So that includes stuff like Greek yogurt. You still want to do like light cheeses if you're going to do it. You want to do like part skim cheeses. You want to do low fat cheeses. And the reason why I say this is because we're all still trying to lose weight here. So although we're reintroducing foods back in our diet, you don't need to be buying like full fat cheese and stuff like that because it still can cause issues with us. It can cause you to gain weight. And let's say you do have an allergy to dairy, or let's say you do have a sensitivity, you're not going to know if you have a sensitivity to it, if you are eating a ton of fat from the cheese, because you don't know if you're bloated from the dairy or if you're just really full from the fat and the cheese. So we want to make sure we're doing like a low fat cheese still. You want to do like, if you're going to do cheese, try and get organic. That's a really good way to tell if you have an allergy to it. And the reason why, if you get the crappy cheese, as I like to say, a lot of times there's a lot of other additives in it, and you don't know if you really have an issue with cheese or if it's just all the processes that they added into it. So try to get organic if you can, or raw cheese is what I like to call it. So if it's in the wheel still, try and get that if you can. And then mozzarella you can usually buy as a ball, and you can kind of just peel off the cheese yourself. So I highly recommend getting it in its raw state, in its fresh state if you can. If you're going to get shredded cheese, try to go for organic again. If you're a cream cheese fan, I don't know a single brand that's organic cream cheese, but there might be some out there. I would try to stay away from that one in the meantime, just because it's a very heavy cheese. So maybe at the end of week three, maybe try a little bit of cream cheese, but don't make that the first option you go for when you get, reintroduce cheese back into your diet. If you're a milk fan, let's stick with around 2%, 1% milk, just because full fat milk, again, keep that in mind. We're trying to lose weight here. So we don't need to have full fat milk, no whole milk, none of that. So we want to try to stick to 1% or 2% if we're going for a milk. Now, I know this is everyone's favorite. We all love ice cream here, but again, we're losing weight. So if you're going to do ice cream, try to stick with Halo Top if you can. I'm a fan of Skinny Cow as well. So if you like that kind of stuff and you're trying to reintroduce a little bit of a sugar back into your diet, although this is not the week we reintroduce sugar, but Skinny Cow is decent, and so is Halo Top. Those are okay. We're just strictly focusing on dairy right now. So those are okay to kind of introduce back into your diet as well. But one thing I want to point out is you got to pay attention to how you feel. You need to recognize when you're bloated. You need to recognize when you're not sleeping well, and you need to recognize what you're eating and when you eat these foods and how you feel afterwards. So I want to make that a huge point, because you're not going to know if you have any issues if you're not keeping track. So keep track of what you're eating, and then take notes of how you feel after.
Super huge, guys. Super huge with that. When you're tracking your stuff, make sure you utilize the app. Make sure you're utilizing the feature that you can track and add notes to what you're doing. This is very important. The whole goal with this is to start becoming more aware, right? With the detox, we cleanse your body. So we started from ground zero. That way we can build up. We can start to reintroduce these foods. And as Lizzie's saying, we're starting to be more in tune and more sensitive to how the foods are affecting us. So it's very, very important not to just go crazy, not to just add it in and then just forget it, but to add it in and then take notes, journal about how your body's responding to it. You may find things that you never realized before. It's a really cool process, but you have to do it to the T. You have to stay focused. You have to stay committed. You have to continue to do it. So utilize your resources that we provide for you so you can track and make sure you're in tune with what's happening in your body. That's really good. Lizzie, good job. Good stuff with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's super important. Tracking your food is very important, and also taking notes of how you feel after you eat a meal. So let's say the first week you're reintroducing back in the wheat, or let's say you're reintroducing oatmeal into your diet, and let's say you've eaten oatmeal your entire life. No problem with it. But let's say after you did this detox and you reintroduce it back in, you're just like, wow, for whatever reason, I'm kind of bloated, or my joints are kind of hurting and I don't know why. You may have had an allergy this whole time or a sensitivity to it and never known that. So detoxes are really good for resetting your body. And so now we're going to really figure out what you can and cannot actually tolerate. So that brings us into week 4. That's the last week of this phase. And we are going to talk about sweeteners and organic sugar. So remember previously during the detox, I told you the only sweetener that was okay was stevia. And the only sugar that was okay was coconut sugar. So week 4, we are going to reintroduce organic sugar. Keep that in mind, organic sugar back into our diets. We're not going to go buy the regular sugar in the 10-pound bag that people seem to keep in their homes. We're not going to buy that. So it needs to be like organic sugar. It can be organic brown sugar. It can be organic regular sugar. It doesn't matter. So you can get organic sugar, and then the sweeteners. I really, really, really would rather you stick with stevia, but if you're a big Splenda fan, we can reintroduce that back into the diet. Monk fruit, if you're a big fan of that, we can reintroduce that back into the diet as well. And then other sweeteners, of course, beyond that are not okay. So ever. So you never want to do the, you want to stay away from all the aspartame. You want to stay away from the xylitol. You want to stay away from the sweet and low. You want to stay away from the equal. That stuff is not okay. It's not good for you. It can cause holes in your brain. It can cause insulin resistance. I don't want to get too medical on you guys, but it can cause a lot of problems. So we don't want to go into that. We don't want to consume that kind of stuff. Organic sugar, stevia, Splenda, monk fruit. And if you want to stick with the coconut sugar, even better. That one's the best one. So you can do that one as well. But sweeteners need to be the last thing we add into our diet. And with that being said, if you're going to eat, like if you're going to make a pie, you're going to make a cake or something like that, keep in mind, we're losing weight here. So if you're going to do that and you decide you want to treat yourself to a little bit of dessert, make sure you're using the approved sweeteners and sugars. Because keep in mind, guys, we're trying to have a lifestyle change here. We don't want to go back to our old habits. We don't want to go back to eating crappy sugar, fast food, just bad food in general. Right. Now, this doesn't mean you can never have it again. It does not mean that. It just means that you're trying to create a better lifestyle for yourself. You're trying to create better habits. You're trying to create better eating habits. You're trying to feel better. You're trying to look better, whatever your goal may be. So keep in mind, we're losing weight here. So reintroducing sugar back into the diet is going to be a big thing. So you've got to pay attention to your body. You need to know when you're bloated. You need to know whenever you're breaking out for some reason. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I got a pimple this week and I don't know what I did different. Well, what are you eating? Maybe it is the sugar, maybe it is the wheat, maybe it is the dairy. So you've got to pay attention to your body. That's the most important thing that we're doing here is when we reintroduce these foods back in, it's important to know what your body likes and what it doesn't. So if you've eaten eggs your whole life, but you reintroduce it back in, and next thing you know, you're in the bathroom 5 times a day, your body does not like eggs. Okay. So you're going to have to pay attention to yourself for sure. It's a very, very, very important thing to do when it comes to reintroducing foods back into your diet. And also pay attention to allergies. Mouth itching is not normal. Skin itching after eating is not normal. So pay attention to other extreme things like that as well when it comes to reintroducing all this back in.
That's huge. If you guys catch the theory we're putting here, what we're doing here, it's creating mindfulness. It's teaching you how to be mindful. And why is this so important? It's because you're going to use this technique, this skill set that you're learning right here in so many areas of your life. Like when I first started bodybuilding, just to share this with you guys, like I had no idea about any of this stuff. I swear I didn't know how to eat. I didn't know how to train properly. I didn't know anything about anything when it comes to the body. And after studying at a university and studying bodybuilding, studying nutrition, studying how it affects my own personal body, I started to learn, started to become more in tune. And with that, the more in tune you are with yourself, the more confidence you're going to gain. Like not to sidetrack off of our main goal here, but this is things that you're going to consequently also add to your body. You're gaining confidence in your abilities, confidence in yourself, because you're holding to your word. You're gaining knowledge in yourself and what your body can handle. And it's ultimately going to open the door to new things, better things, greater things. So when you're going through this process, one, understand you don't have to reintroduce all these foods if you don't want to. It's a good idea to reintroduce the foods that you used to eat that we're saying here, but you don't have to, right? But if you do, you're understanding how it's affecting your body. You're starting to learn the most important thing that's going to change your life, that things don't happen to you, things happen because of you. All right. So very, very important to understand this, guys. We're opening the door to just creating a life that you can really, truly enjoy living, and a body that you can enjoy living it in. That's huge, guys.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a quick recap of what's happening. Week 1, we're introducing red meat and eggs back into the diet. Again, like Dylan said, if this is not something you already eat, or if this is not something you like to eat, do not feel obligated to have to eat this stuff. This is just a reintroduction because people usually eat these things anyway. If you don't eat red meat, don't introduce it into your diet. There's no need to start now if you don't eat red meat to begin with. And that goes for anything that I'm listing. And then week 2, we're going to reintroduce the wheat, the oats, the barley, the legumes back into our diet. Week 3 will be dairy. Week 4 will be sweeteners and organic sugar. So again, you want to pay attention to your body. And this is after every single meal. You're going to be tracking still. So I hope you're tracking to begin with, but if you're not, let's go ahead and start now. You're going to start tracking your meals, and you need to find out with your body. You really got to pay attention. How do you feel after you eat something? How do you feel after you ate eggs for breakfast? Or how did you feel after you drank that smoothie that had 2% milk in it? How do you feel after you eat these foods? It's very, very important, because what you think you can tolerate, your body probably might not like it, So, and if you don't have any issues, then you're golden. You're one of those great people who has no sensitivities to anything, and their stomach is made of steel. So that's wonderful. So if you're one of those people, congratulations. But most people are not. Most people have allergies and they don't even realize it. Most people have sensitivities and they don't realize it. So that's the whole point of the reintroduction phase. We are trying to see what your body likes and what it doesn't like. And this is something that you are going to have to really pay attention to when you're eating. And this is something you're going to have to take with you for the rest of your life. So if you know for sure after this that my body doesn't like milk, great, that. Therefore, we should try to avoid it. When you do consume dairy, there are things you can do, like take lactate. I'm not saying you can never have ice cream again for the rest of your life. There are things to get around it, but now you're aware. You know that you can't have dairy. You know that you can't have wheat or whatever your body won't tolerate. Because keep in mind, when you're on a weight loss journey and you're eating foods that are inflammatory to your body, getting results is going to be very difficult. Your body can't process the food. It can't digest the food properly if it has a sensitivity to it, if it's allergic to it. So you have to be very mindful of what you're eating. And I know this doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense. You're like, well, what does it matter if I'm eating red meat and I'm trying to lose weight? Well, it matters if your body isn't absorbing it properly. It matters if it's sitting in your stomach like bricks. It matters if you're getting bloated and you're just like, oh, all I ate was a lean piece of steak and I look like I'm 3 months pregnant. Well, that means that your body does not like steak. It does not like the red meat. So paying attention to yourself is very, very important. Whether you're losing weight, whether you're gaining muscle, whether you're maintaining, it doesn't matter. You have to know what your body likes and what it doesn't like. So that's the whole point of reintroducing the foods and back into our diet. So that's the recap of what we're going to be doing this month. And then when you guys see us on the video next week, we're going to talk about how to be successful and what to improve on. This is what's going to be the most important thing after you have figured out, hey, my body likes this, it doesn't like this. And now I know what to focus on. Now I know what to do next. And that's what we're going to talk about next week.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So you see the pattern here, you see the way we're moving, and you see at the end, the light at the end of the tunnel with this. So take it seriously, guys. Track your stuff. We can't say that enough. Make sure, and I just want you to know, like, the reason why we always say tracking, the reason why you've probably always heard people say track your stuff, and if you haven't, you are now, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because you cannot change the unknown, right? When you create a tracking list and you write things down, you can see exactly what's happening, written words of what's happening, right? Because when we just go based on memory, studies show that we forget, what is it? Like, I believe it's 20% of everything we learned within 10 minutes, right? Within 24 hours, we forget 90% of what happened then. Within a week, we forget like 95% of everything that happened. So our brains only hold on to certain things. What is that it holds on to? It holds on to emotions, what we feel. That's what we remember the most. But everything else can be contoured based on our perception of that event. So when you write down what happened, it's the hard facts. There's no misconception, or you're not contouring what's happening. You're getting the hard facts. You're seeing everything for what it really is, and you're remembering the truth in there. So I'm not saying the brain lies to you, but sometimes we remember things not exactly how they played out. So it's very, very, very important to track your information. Make sure you have a food journal or something like a little black book that you can use and track your stuff every day, or use the app. Use the app that we provide for you, or MyFitnessPal. You can integrate that right into their training app, and you can track everything through MyFitnessPal, and it shows up right in the app for us to see. That way we can keep you accountable and moving forward towards your goals. Very important, guys. Make sure you track your information, track your stuff, and not just with nutrition, but ultimately with everything in your life. You can do a time journal. You can see exactly how you're utilizing your time throughout the day to make sure you're not wasting time, to see where you're utilizing and where you're putting your time and your effort. That way you can grow, you continue to grow. That's just some of the things that we'll talk about here later on in the course as well. But biggest thing, guys, I want you to focus on: track your information, track your progress, and make sure you're improving upon that progress as well. Perfect, guys. Awesome. Lizzie, any final thoughts for them?
I guess all in all, just pay attention. You just got to pay attention to your body. So that's probably the most important takeaway from this, guys. When you're reintroducing foods back in, you have to pay attention, because if you reintroduce all this back in and you didn't track anything, and you didn't pay attention to anything, and you didn't pay attention to how you felt after your meal, then you did it all for nothing. And you're back to square one. You're like, oh, well, this is what I was eating before. And now I don't know what my body likes and what it doesn't like, because I wasn't paying attention or I didn't track anything. And if you're not tracking anything, then you have a chance of gaining weight as well. So you want to make sure that you're tracking your food, because again, no matter what your goal is, if you're trying to lose weight, maintain, or gain weight, you still need to track. You have to track all of that. And for this specific phase, for what we're doing for this next month, it's important for you to know what your body likes and what it doesn't like. You'd be surprised. You'd be really surprised at what you can and cannot tolerate. And this goes for everything. If you are eating oats for breakfast for one morning, track that, make sure you track it, and then put how you feel afterwards. And then let's say the next morning you want toast instead of oats, track that, see how you feel afterwards. Because now you did oats, and then the next day you decide to do wheat and gluten. So you're trying to see, what your body feels like afterwards. So make sure you track everything. That's the most important takeaway. Make sure you track how you feel, write it down, because you're going to forget how you feel if you don't write it down. And then make sure you're tracking all your food. And that's the most important takeaway.
Brilliant, guys. Well, you heard it here first. Now take this advice, take this information, apply it, and watch the success just roll out for yourself. So we can't wait to hear from you how you're doing. So reach out to us if you have any other questions. We're here to be your ultimate resource and your guide to achieve the body of your dreams. So thank you guys for joining us in this coaching call today. Any questions, like I said, reach out to us at any time. We are open sources for you. But if you don't have any questions, then we will see you next week on our Nutrition Mastery coaching call.
Hey yo, here we go. Microphone check. 1 2 1 2.